So now we're in the really exciting part and we get to paint our fruit. So I'm just going to show you the way that I get the coasters started with the painting. So I'm not going to add any gesso to these pieces because I've done them with gesso and then I've done them without gesso, and I just find that the acrylic paint sticks a lot easier when there's no gesso underneath, because sometimes it can bubble up. And we've got quite a big area that you can see that's visible. So we're just going to go straight onto the clay. Now I'm going to do the lemon first. I'm just going to show you, I'm not going to do the whole thing, but I'm just going to show you how I get started. So I've got quite a big brush because there aren't any kind of fiddly parts to the lemon. And I'm just going to lay down my first brush of colour. I'm just going to put a bit more water on that because the paint's a little bit dry. And I'm going to paint the whole of the background of the lemon. Now what you do want to do is to let it dry in between coats. So I'm going to go down the sides of the lemon. So you want to make sure that you've got something protective underneath the surface that you're working on, because the acrylic paint, you don't want it to mark your table. You can get it off, it is water-based, but even so. So I'm just using some yellow and a bit of white there, just to give a nice fresh coat to the lemon. If you've got a banding wheel or a little turntable, it helps because then you can move your piece around easily, just rotating it. If you don't, then that's okay. If you pop it on top of a piece of paper, you can just turn the paper like that. Does the same thing, not as fancy. And so we're just going to do the whole of the lemon there, cover the surface. Now don't put too thick a coat of paint on, because if you do, then what happens is as you go over it with your brush, you can end up lifting the paint off. If that happens, don't worry, just allow the piece to dry and then you can go back over and patch it up wherever you might have lifted any bits of paint up. So I've just done my first coat, just to make sure I'll go around the edges. And I've put a fairly sort of light lemon, very fresh colour on it. And then, as you can see from my finished piece, I've just added a bit of depth around the edges. So I've darkened this yellow down. I've used the one that's more like an egg yolk colour. And I also have this colour here, which is like an ochre, a medium ochre. And then I used that. And I painted some little dots on as well. And I used an embossing tool to do that. So basically, sorry about that, just dropped my tools. The embossing tools look like this. They've got like a little, like a ball on the end of them. So use them for embossing paper and things like that. But I find them really good for adding detail. So if you dip it into the paint and then you place the paint down with the end of the embosser, you can get a set of these, and they're all different sort of styluses on the end. The size of them differs, so you can get really lovely detail with them, and we will be using them later for the tiny little fruits that I've done, the fun fruits, fruity friends. So that's how to add your paint just straight onto your clay. I'm going to move this, and I'm just going to show you what I did with the strawberry. So you can see I've added my textures in different sort of shades of red onto there in my stalk, and then I decided to add the little seedlings on using this metallic paint that we use for the perfume bottle project. It's Deco Art Dazzling Metallic, and it's Glorious Gold is the colour. And just all I did was I used a paintbrush with really fine head on it, or you could use the embossing styluses as well. So just decant some paint into a palette, and then you can dip your stylus into there and then dab that on, or just using your very fine paintbrush to do it as well. And just randomly did that, and I think that gives it a really nice effect there. So you can see the gold glistening. And so my strawberry is ready. I can just wait for that to dry a little bit and then I can start glazing it. I'm just going to show you where I'm at with the lime slice. So what I've done here is I actually drew with a pencil the center point, and then the pith that's, you know, the skin that's in between the slices, the segments of the lime. So I've mixed up my colour and I've just painted my edges. And then I'm going to go in with a really fine brush. Let's get my lime palette. So I've got a different palette for all the different fruits that I'm doing. So I'm going to mix a tiny bit of green in with the white. And then I'm just going to go in around there. So remember we saw that the pith was in between the skin and the first sort of juicy segment. So I'm just going to paint around. Your clay is white, so you're probably going to not be able to see this very well. And then just paint around and then paint down those channels. And then I'm going to add my green, my assorted shades of green to add the lovely little segment areas of my coaster, my lime slice. So that's what you're going to do. Just paint your pieces. As I said, when you're painting with the acrylic paint, be careful that if you're going over it again and again with the brush, that you can lift the paint off. It can end up sort of coming up with your brush. So do allow it to dry in between coats. It doesn't need long to dry, and just take your time and really enjoy the process. And then once we've done the painting and we're happy with that, we're going to do some glazing to seal the pieces and to make them look as though they've actually been glazed and glaze fired. So I'm going to have this really lovely super shiny finish like we have on this lemon here. So enjoy your painting and come back and let's see how to finish our pieces and glaze them.